Hello and a lovely day to all our careers out there. Today affords us another opportunity to meet a very remarkable individual. This is a woman who is an educator and has been an educator for the most part of her life and has contributed immensely to the school of whom we boast. So today we are talking to none other than Accra Mrs. Charlotte Grace here in her home at Cantonment. It's an amazing time that we are going to be having with her. This woman has so much history concerning Achimota School and so much that she's helped to achieve in her time in Achimota School, even up until now. So today happens to be a day with Mrs. Charlotte Grace. Mrs. Grace, thank you so much for welcoming us into your home. And thank you for allowing Achimota School to know who you are, you truly are from inside out. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
All right, awesome. So please, our first question to you for today would be, how was growing up like? How did you grow up? How was your childhood like?
Well, I was born at Mampong Akwapim. I started school there and moved to Suhum for a couple of years and came back to Mampong Presbyterian Girls Boarding School.
Wow.
And that was a school that really laid the foundation of my going to Achimota School.
Wow, that's amazing. So you grew up right here in Accra before moving on to Mampong?
No. I was born in Mampong.
Mampong.
I went to class 1 in Mampong. And I moved for a short while to Suhum, then came back to Mampong. And from Mampong came to Achimota School.
To Achimota School.
Yes.
That's amazing. So a life lived outside of Accra for a while and then you finally settled in an Accra-based school, Achimota.
Yeah. Yes, okay.
Awesome. But what influenced the decision to go to Achimota School? Why not any other school?
To start off with, I didn't even think I'll go to Achimota School. Even though my father went to Achimota School, his older sisters went to Achimota School, and they talked about Achimota School all the time. So I knew about Agri and Fraser and Founders Day and all that when I was in primary school.
Wow.
But I thought I would be going to Aburi Girls' School.
Okay.
Being a Presbyterian, going to a Presbyterian school. But it was just by a kind of fluke in that one of my classmates at the girls' school had Achimota form to fill, to go to take the exam to go to Achimota. In those days, each school conducted its own examination, entrance examination. And she thought she'd made a mistake on the form and she didn't want it. So she was going to tear it up. I said, oh no, Lucy, let me take a look. She gave it to me. I said, I'll clean it and fill it for myself. So I used Milton to clean it and I filled it and I took it to my father to sign. It was then that he realized that he could send me to his old school.
Wow.
And then I took the exam and passed with a scholarship and went to Achimota School.
Wow, that's truly amazing. That's quite a story because it looks as though you were not going to go.
No.
And then all of a sudden you meet a friend who gives you that opportunity to go to Achimota School.
Yeah. And she came, I was in Kingsley House when she came to the school because she threw the first form away, right? So she was too late when she got the next form to fill and take the exam. Okay. So she took it the following year and came and met me at Achimota.
Wow.
Kingsley House, yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, stepping into Achimota School, what were some of your fondest memories? How did you start out in Form 1 to the very end?
Well, to start off, the first day I walked through the gates in January 1949 and saw the setup there, the layout and the mighty buildings. I said to myself, I'm home. I'm never moving out of this place. And so it's been. I have had a very, very good upbringing from Achimota School, and my life has always been based on what I was taught in Achimota School. I'm extremely grateful to Mother Achimota.
That's super amazing. So how many years were you in Achimota School?
5 years, Form 1 to Form 5.
Form 5.
I didn't go to sixth form. In those days, the sixth form exam, entrance exam, was taken just before O levels.
Okay.
So those of us who wanted to go to sixth form took the exam. I passed. I got half scholarship, ready to go to Achimota School sixth form. Nowhere else. Achimota School sixth form. Then it turned out that at that time, they wanted some students to go to Kumasi. Kumasi had just started as a college, to go and do teacher training, sixth form, and beginnings of the university. So myself and a friend, in fact 2 friends, were asked to go to Kumasi instead of Achimota School. And I said, no way. I wasn't going to Kumasi anywhere. If I don't do sixth form in Achimota, that's the end of sixth form. And that was it. So I didn't do sixth form at all. I continued to do something else after Form 5.
That's really remarkable. But what was it about Achimota School that was so special that you were willing to, as the book author would say, Achimota or death, you were willing to stick to just Achimota School? What made Achimota different?
Well, I felt so much at home at Achimota School. I was myself. I got involved in everything. Luckily for me, my middle school, from where I left to come to Achimota, was something like a practice school for a training college, for a Aburi Women's Training College. So we were well taught. We, before we went to secondary, we knew a lot of stuff. So I realized that, so these are the things that they are teaching in Achimota. I know them already. So instead of concentrating on the academic side, I went into everything. I went to the music. In those days, there were a lot of clubs and a lot of things that students could do. So I learned to play the piano, the violin, and I was in the school orchestra. I was in every play that was done. I was on the stage all the time. And I like swimming, and my friends and I practiced swimming every Sunday. And it got up to a point when we were in Form 3 that Kingsley House was first in swimming. Then when we were in Form 4, we were first. When we were in Form 5, we were first. Wow. I always swam all the time. And then games, I wasn't very good at games. I couldn't run, I couldn't jump, I couldn't do anything. But I was always on the games too, and cheering other people up. And I was in the library. I read practically all the books in the library. I was in the debating club. I was in the Plato Club. Wow. And did you bring anything
at all?
I was in the choir. Wow. Whatever play that was coming up, I was in it. Recently, I saw a picture. A classmate of mine sent me a picture of a play that we did when we were in Form 2.
Wow.
And I couldn't recognize myself because I changed. I didn't realize I was in it.
This was 70 years ago.
Yes, and it reminded me of those days. I played the woodcutter in that thing, and some of the teachers called me woodcutter throughout the time that I was in school. Yeah, I was in everything.
Wow.
But getting to in Form 4, I realized I really had to sit up and learn. And so I struggled and said to myself, I'm leaving this school to go to university. I should matriculate. So I sat down and worked and matriculated so I could go to university.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. It looks like your time in Achimota School was deeply entrenched in the arts, because you spoke about the debates, the music school, being in the orchestra, being in the plays. It was like a lot of the arts.
Arts and science as well. Okay. And we learned, we had a zoo. There was a zoo in the school we learned all about. And we learned about all the plants in the school. We knew their names. So there was something like zoo and botany. And we didn't have a science club. If you had a science club, I would have joined. So there was no science club. But then we learned, our teachers were extremely good. And we learned certain things without even being in the classroom. You see, so really, I became an all-rounder.
Person in Achimota.
Both science and arts.
Both science and arts.
Yeah.
Interesting. Would you say that spending a longer time in Achimota is better than spending a shorter time in Achimota, as we have in the current generation, where students have to spend just about 3 years in school?
Much, much better. You know, formerly they spent 7 years.
Yes.
And so the memory of the school was long. And somebody goes to Form 1, stays on to 6th form.
Yes.
And he knew so much about the school.
True.
Now 3 years, what can students pick up in 3 years?
3 years.
Too busy learning.
Too busy.
So the characteristics of the school do not get into students as they should, in the way they think, the way they act. The Achimota spirit is not as strong now as it used to be. It used to be very, very strong. Very, very strong. Each student had it in him.
I think even now, we as the younger generation can even see it, because when we see older Akres come back to the school to give back to the school, we see the quantum and the energy with which they give back, and it tells us that no, there must have been something really special about the Achimota that they met that pushes them to come back all the time. So it's great to hear this from you. That's really great. So, do you hold any leadership positions in Achimota, apart from all that you were involved in?
I didn't hold any leadership position apart from being dormitory monitress.
Okay.
Perhaps Form 2, I was a house gardening monitress. I could take it as a leadership. And Form 5, I was house dormitory monitress. Yes, okay. That's all. That's all.
That's great. I mean, it was a big population, and not everybody could necessarily be at the top.
There were very good people there, better than me. Better than me, I assure you.
Wow,
there
amazing.
were some excellent people in the school. Yeah.
Okay, so Madam Charlotte, in your time in Achimota School, did you have an idea of what you wanted to become after Achimota School?
No, I had an idea of what I didn't want to be.
Okay.
I wanted to go in where I can get to the top. And I said I wouldn't want to be a doctor, because I knew I would never get to the top of that profession in this country. There were very few doctors at that. I mean, very few Ghanaian doctors. They were mainly white doctors. And I didn't want to go into law, because we had the impression that sometimes lawyers didn't tell the truth. And I said, being a strict Presbyterian, I said I wasn't going into law. And thinking about it, I said, probably I would like to teach.
Okay.
So I ended up being a teacher.
A teacher. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. In a space where probably teaching, I don't know how much teaching was valued at the time, but were you not bothered that your colleagues would probably do seemingly greater things? What made you think teaching was the best fit for you?
I probably was born a teacher, because right from when I was young, I was teaching my classmates. And when I got to middle school, when teachers were going to meetings in my class, I was always asked to lead the class. And later on in that same school, when I was in the senior class, I was asked to go to the junior class to teach them certain things. So I got that step by step. I was growing up. And I thought, well, right, maybe that was the right thing for me to do. I didn't mind about the emolument or whatever, but in those days, teachers were highly respected.
Okay.
And it was a good profession to be in. It was an honorable profession. and I was quite glad to get into it, irrespective of the emolument.
Wow. Thank you so much. So, where did you start from in the teaching career? What school did you begin teaching in?
I trained outside Ghana. I trained in England, and when I came back, I was sent to Aburi Women's Training College. At that time, I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And my students were about 25 to 30 years old. But I enjoyed teaching them.
Wow.
And when I was leaving, they were so sad. They really were very sad. Yes. From there.
But how did they appreciate somebody who was younger than them teaching them?
Oh, because I made them feel young.
Okay.
They felt very young. Whatever I did, I talked the same way, their minds and their feelings. I was with them, and I was part of them. And they would tell me about what other teachers were doing that they didn't like, etc., and all that sort of thing. So, and they learned what I taught them, and some of them even took after me, the way I behaved and worked and so forth. But they were older than us, yes. From there, I went to Achimota School to teach, and I enjoyed this, one of the best times in my life as a teacher in Achimota School and as a house mistress of Clark House.
Wow.
As a student, I was in Kingsley House, and as a teacher, house mistress of Clark House. Well, in those days, most of the teachers at Achimota School were very young.
Okay.
So we had a big group of young teachers who, after classes, did all sorts of things together. We entertain ourselves and go to town to dance and high life competitions and all that. That's what Achimota School teachers. We did a whole lot of things. I really enjoyed the staff club. You know, there's a staff clubhouse at the school. Yeah, the staff clubhouse operated at full capacity, and every member of staff went to the staff club after rest hour.
Wow.
Or we'll go to games. Teachers went to games with students. And from games, we go to clubhouse, sit down, chat, talk about work, talk about students, talk about the compound, talk about what's going on in the country. And it was growing, continuing to mature, and we liked it. And our at that time, the headmaster was Mr. Chapman Yaho, an old Achimotan, very, very nice person, very pleasant. And we had a good time and worked hard. Teachers worked hard. Most of them were foreigners. And with a few Ghanaians and the foreigners worked together, and really the school just went up and up.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah.
It must have been very good, per how you describe it, to have been in a school that had so much reputation and was reputed to be training leaders and forerunners for the whole nation and even the world as a whole. So from what we gather from what you're saying, it was a big thing to be a teacher in Achimota School.
Oh yes, you're highly respected. And when you say that you teach in Achimota, everybody sort of gave you the respect that they should give. And but there were certain things that people didn't like, in that there were not many Ghanaian teachers. And Nkrumah came around at that time, so within a short while, the staff body was Africanized.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So how did you rise all the way to the top, becoming the headmistress of Achimota School? How long did it take that to happen?